Hello, everyone. We appreciate your time and thanks for joining us again today. Today we have Mark Sullivan with us of Legal TV Leads. And today, Mark's going to talk about how to generate serious injury leads by focusing on the highest value cases. And TV has been a very interesting new endeavor for me, as I've learned a lot about it through working with Legal TV Leads. It's something that I've not really been exposed to in my career, so it's always been interesting to me how they do that and the process behind it and some of the tips and secrets behind it. But today, I'm happy to have again Mark Sullivan, the president of Legal TV Leads, with us. And Mark, I think that you could do a better job of telling them about yourself than I can. So why don't you give us a little bit of your background?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for the introduction, Travis. I've been in television media for about 24 years, and I spent the last 8 years of my corporate time at Tribune Broadcasting. And I started Legal TV Leads 6 years ago with a colleague of mine at the time, Mark Rinehart, and we've grown exponentially ever since. The objective is to get guys access to those same leads on TV that the $1 million spenders are going after, and you don't have to have those budgets. So TV is a very competitive platform for personal injury, and we get anyone access to it, and we lead the charge and we assume the risk.
Yeah, and I like your model, Mark, because it's interesting. It's you don't have to have that, extremely, unobtainable budget that, is seemingly been that threshold for people that are in that smaller to mid-sized firm range. It just seems like out of reach for a lot of people. But this type of service makes it more accessible to them, and actually something they could test out without having to go and remortgage their house, and do everything else. So it's exciting to me. And we actually had Mark partner at the AEA conference, and he was one of our presenters, and it was an excellent presentation. It was very well received, and we were very happy with the results we had from that conference and the message that they delivered. So I'm excited to hear your take on it, because I know that your take's a little bit different than your partners, because everybody has a little bit different perspective on it. Today during the webinar, the one thing we're going to learn about again is how to generate an exponential return on your investment by focusing on the most serious injury cases. And, this is obviously something I get asked about a lot as an owner of a marketing company. I say, Travis, how do we cut through the crap? How do we cut through these, shitty cases that we're getting, or prospects that we're getting, or, soft tissue damage and stuff like that? I want the big ones. I want the ones that, really matter, and ones that generate the best ORI for me. And so, Mark, today, how do we do that? Tell us a little bit more about it.
Sure. And Travis, you're right. The amount of resources that go into a small soft tissue case are essentially the same as a big serious injury case. So what we've figured out is how to save our clients their most precious resource, which is their time. So if you're going to have a caseload and it's going to occupy your time, then you'll might as well work on cases with the largest ROI. So here's what we do, and here's the process. We provide all of the assets for a television campaign for a law firm, okay? We produce the commercials. We design the media schedule, and we actually with our dollars. So the law firm only pays when we send them an actual qualified lead, okay? And we'll go through what entails a qualified lead in a moment. So
hey, Mark, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I forgot to mention that if folks have a question during the presentation, feel free just to type it in the Q&A section of the system, and we will get to it as soon as possible. If it makes sense for me to interrupt Mark and ask him that question, I will. If not, we'll wait till the Q&A after, which we're going to have a pretty extensive Q&A after. So if you want to wait till the end of the presentation, it's only going to be about 15 or 20 minutes. He's not very long-winded, thank God. So we're actually going to get to a point where we can actually dive into the meat and potatoes and stuff. So sorry to interrupt, Mark, but I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, no problem. So again, we provide all of the assets for the TV campaign. We lead the charge. The law firm only pays when we send them an actual qualified lead. Now, in a moment, we'll go through the criterion of a qualified lead, okay? We use only broadcast TV stations in your local market as a platform. Okay, on the English side, it's ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, and CW. And on the Spanish side, it's Univision, Unimas, Telemundo, Azteca, and Estrella. So these commercials are running during business hours in your hometown, in your local market. They're not running on cable networks at 3 in the morning, and you're not tied to some big national campaign where you're getting overflow. Okay? And as you all know, your category is wildly competitive on TV. Whether you're in a big city or a small town market, personal injury commercials saturate daytime TV. The reason why is because that's where the best leads are. And that's also where the 800-pound gorillas are spending millions of dollars. So we get right in the mix with them, push them aside, and pull leads for you, again, using our dollars and assuming the risk. Okay? So a call comes in, it goes to our intake center, and we screen it out for a serious injury and all of the components that comprise an actual case. Okay, and again, we'll go through that in a moment. Once a qualified lead is determined, we live transfer that call over to you, and then we simultaneously send you an email of that lead so that you have a digital document of the call. Who called, you know, their best callback number, and all their answers to that screening criteria, right? So if we don't deliver an actual lead that is a potential case, then you don't pay. So we transfer a call over to your law firm, and, you know, inevitably it happens. You find out they were at fault, or, you know, they did have an attorney, or whatever the case may be. We credit that call. So just because they tell our screeners one thing, whatever comes to fruition is what you pay for, okay? And it doesn't happen a lot, but it definitely happens. So just know we credit those calls. It has to be a potential case, and then it's your job to sign them up, okay? These are on-demand leads. We have clients that turn them on and off as needed. So we operate with no long-term contracts. And I think that says a lot about the product and the fact that we stand by it. So we have firms that will turn it on and off as they need it to fill their caseload. Then they kind of will get to work, close some cases, build up some cash flow, start up again. So you can do small test orders to begin, and then use us as you need us along the way.
Hey, Mark, I got a great question from someone that's really applicable. It says, do you give the same lead to multiple attorneys, or just the single lead to a single firm?
These leads in these calls are 100% exclusive. So they never go to more than one firm. So a call comes in, it's screened out for your firm, and then it's transferred to your firm. And the nice thing is we operate with complete transparency. So we have a client dashboard where you can see and hear all of the calls for your firm. You'll even hear my screeners on the phone with them before we transfer it over to you. So we have complete transparency. Now, the nice part of that is, you know, that we're not moving cases from one firm to the next and playing favorites. Every client operates completely autonomous of one another. Okay. And again, we'll have complete transparency that you can see and hear the screeners and know exactly what's going on.
That's great. Thanks for the question, Amanda.
All right. If you want to move on to the next slide.
Absolutely.
All right. So identifying serious injury leads, broken bone cases. This is what all attorneys are seeking. Every small soft tissue case you sign up, I think it's just something you're doing on your way to these cases. But this is how you can propel your law firm to the next level. Okay? And I'm going to delve into the two types of leads here now. So again, hey, Mark, I mentioned
one more question, Mark. Yeah. I think is actually a pretty good question. It says, how tight of a geographic area can a firm request leads from? Can I request leads from just my city?
Yes, and that's a great question. So remember when I said that we use only broadcast stations, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, CW?
I do. Yep.
So there are 210 TV markets across the country. Okay. The top three are New York, LA, Chicago, and then, they trickle on down to small towns. We've generated leads in as small of markets as Dothan, Alabama, and Santa Barbara, California. Okay. I know Santa Barbara is market number 123. So when you start getting into these small towns like Monterey, California, Rockford, Illinois, some of these smaller towns, we can still generate leads. Now, I do get to a point where some of the smallest TV markets, Lafayette, Indiana, I've never even heard of it. There's 67,000 people there. I wouldn't be able to generate leads. So there is a point.
That's near my hometown, man. So it's like,
really?
Yeah.
You'd have to find a larger metro nearby for us to run. But we can do this in each what's called a designated market area, and the television stations all have the same footprint. Okay, so if someone's in a typical market, say Indianapolis, for instance, I could get from the stations a coverage map, and that says here are the counties that our signal covers. And another way to look at it is who sees your local news. Those are the counties that could serve the ads, and that's where the leads could come from. Okay, so.
Great, thanks for answering that. I appreciate it.
Yep. All right, so let's delve into it. So what is a serious injury lead? What do you get? All right, calls come into our screening center, and the first question we ask is, were you injured in an accident? If the potential claimant says yes, our intake team is supposed to show empathy and say, I'm sorry to hear that, and then delve into the screening. Did you suffer one of the following injuries? Broken or fractured bone, torn joint or ligament, surgery required, traumatic brain injury, or death of a loved one. Okay, only serious injuries. If the potential claimant says yes, we're supposed to show more empathy. I hope my team's doing that. And then they proceed with the screening questions. Were you not at fault? Was the date of loss within the statute? Have you never had an attorney for this accident? So no one dropped it a few months ago. Is there insurance present, and was treatment sought? Okay, that composes a fully screened case. That, if all of those boxes are checked correctly, that's a potential case. We live transfer that call over to the law firm and then send an email of that lead. Okay, it's your job now to sign them up. So that is our serious injury product, and that's the primary lead that you get with our campaign.
So, Mark, is there any particular time in which you guys run these ads? I mean, if I'm a small and a mid-sized firm, and it's 9:30 at night, is there a range of times that these leads typically come in, or is it very random?
Great question. We only run ads during business hours. Okay, we love local news, game shows, judge shows, talk shows, daytime TV, and that's where all the other $1 million spenders are spending their money as well. Okay, we're getting people still fresh in the hospital bed or just home from the hospital on their couch before they go and click on 20 websites. That's why TV is so sought after. Okay, so we do ask that firms take calls. If someone writes the number down and calls in the evening when they get home or on the weekend, we do want you to take that call. But rest assured that 90% of these calls will come during business hours.
Gotcha. And are you guys branding the firm, or are you branding just the generic firm, just the generic, attorney advertising service?
Yeah, so we do not brand these for the law firm. Actually, the name in the commercial is the Legal Help Center. Okay, so they're not branded for any law firm. They run unbranded, and then the calls are sent over to the attorney.
Excellent. And do you have any idea of the conversion rates on any of these leads? I mean, that's obviously if I was in the seat of the people looking to possibly use your service, and how many of these leads usually convert to clients?
Our serious injury leads are converting about 8 out of 10. Because again, Travis, this is a fully screened out case. Put on the phone with you. Yeah, so all they have to do is say, hey, let me text you over or email you our retainer docs, and we'll send an investigator out and we'll get you signed up today and start working on your case. So there's not a lot of work left to be done at this point.
I got a question from Tom, who's asked, I think, probably the most obvious question that everybody wants to know is, what's the cost per lead and what is the minimum buy?
All right. So the cost of the serious injury leads are $6,000 each. Okay. And again, you should sign up 80% of those. So you guys do the math on the ROI when eventually you get the commercial defendant, the semi truck. So yeah, the ROI on these leads is phenomenal.
And what is the typical return on the investment for, your average law firm? Not for your guys who are, killing it, who seriously have this, dialed in, but for the guy who just starts, who's just starting this and doesn't quite have it figured out yet.
I'd say at least 10x, and here's why. So you can do a small test with us of a retainer of $15,000, and we'll just allocate as we deliver a serious injury lead, we'll deduct. As we deliver an auto lead, we'll deduct from that until we use up the retainer amount, and then you can refill it as you need it. Okay. So back to your ROI question. A minimum serious injury case is probably about $80,000 to $100,000. And your fees on that would be, let's say, $33,000. And if you're paying 6, you're getting more than 5 times, and that's on the absolute worst case scenario. I can't tell you how many times, guys, we've sent auto versus pedestrian. A limousine took a guy out in the crosswalk, $5 million case. A number of semi-truck accidents. When you're only playing in this space and you're only focusing on the serious stuff, it doesn't take a lot of at-bats for you to find the big ones. So you will absolutely find the $1 million cases here.
Yeah, it's fun. I think some people, obviously $6,000 per case is, to some people, it look like sticker shock. But I think it's the thing that people don't necessarily take into consideration is the time that they spend working through these, basically somewhat very unmeaningful cases, meaningful in many ways, but, as far as financially, they can be not as lucrative. And the time that they have to allocate to those in order to actually just meet the outcome of one case. So it's that concept of focusing your time where you can generate the most revenue, right? How can I make the most money in the shortest period of time? And again, there's no magic, there's no secret to this. It's literally focusing and developing the right type of leads. And it's not cheap to do that. And, but this process, if I wanted to vet some of your clients and get some referrals, would you guys be comfortable with a potential prospect calling your current clients and asking them how it's working for them?
Of course, I'd be happy to do that. And I get it, guys. This is a totally different paradigm shift. So we have a recent client in California, and he goes, I spend like $200 a lead, and I go, how's that working for you? And he said it's terrible. I can't get people on the phone. When I do, they've already been dropped by other attorneys, or, there's a number of things wrong with it. So this is just a complete paradigm shift. And this product is definitely not for everyone. But when you're only talking to broken bone cases that are fully screened out to be a sign up, it's just a mindset shift from what you normally do. You sign them up, we put you on the phone with them, you sign them up, and then you get back to what you were doing. You don't waste your time running around sifting through all the other junk that's out there. So this is the Mercedes-Benz of leads.
I have another question for you, Mark. It says, Tom asked, do we have access to the original call recordings? And I think you answered that earlier, but I'm going to let you re-answer it. Are there any of these are any of these leads taken from digital leads? It says 6,000 is not bad if they truly are serious injury cases and you are retaining over 50% of them, is what Tom had to say.
Yes, you have complete access to the entire phone call. From the second they call our screeners, you hear the entire screening process. Okay, so we have total transparency along the way. Our leads are only generated from broadcast TV. None are from digital. Okay.
And
so,
another,
like I said,
question.
These are before they go and click on 20 websites. They pick up the phone and they call.
And I think you addressed this earlier, Mark, but I think you mentioned that if for some reason, if one of your leads happens to mislead your screeners, and they have been represented by attorney, and maybe the attorney released their case, that they don't pay for that lead, right?
100% correct. This has to be a potential case, and just because they tell my screeners one thing doesn't make it a qualified lead. All of those criteria have to actually come to fruition. So, and again, it happens. You'll find out there's liability issues, or they were at fault. They ran a red light, or they didn't have an attorney and they were dropped. You don't pay unless it's a potential case.
And are certain markets more, obviously, smaller markets? What are your top performing markets? I mean, that's a question I have for sure. Is it the big one, Chicago, Miami, New York, Houston? Are those the most lucrative markets, or is it your mid-sized market that usually performs well?
I would say it's a mix of large and mid-sized markets. So Chicago, San Francisco, Boston, Dallas, Houston, those are fantastic markets. But then even some that, Birmingham, not as big of a market, but still does well. Austin does well. New York City is a large market. That does well. So, yeah, I'd say large to mid-sized cities, St. Louis, Kansas City, Seattle, a number in Ohio, Portland, Oregon. So, yeah, I mean, it varies, but I'd say our most successful markets are mid-sized to large. I will tell you this, Travis, a lot of markets are closed out. So these are obviously extremely exclusive, valuable leads. We can't just generate them on a whim. So we only offer 2 clients doing serious injury leads per market. So I'd want guys to just check with me to see if their market's available. Like, unfortunately, the state of Georgia's closed. So, and a number of other cities. We're sold out there. So, I could put guys on a wait list if need be.
Yeah, and so again, they can just contact you if they have, questions about their market. But, what are some of the common objections you get, Mark, from, people who are weary of what you guys offer?
I think it's sticker shock. I think guys their mindset is paying for cheap leads, and then they spend all their time sifting through them. So I would say that's the biggest objective that we run, or objection that we run into. And that's fine. Like I said, this product isn't for everybody. And, I think a lot of guys in this category might have cash flow issues, and that's an expensive lead. But if you want to take your law firm to the next level, and if you want to find out why the $5 million whale in your town saturates TV, I'll show you why. Yeah,
it's no secret. I mean, the guys, we here in Los Angeles, it's insane how much money some of our firms here locally are spending on radio, television, and others, and they've been doing it for years. So it clearly pays off if it's handled and done correctly. What are some of the areas where people tend to screw this up? I mean, that's a good question I have. So if I'm paying $6,000 for a lead, what are some of the things that I need to be very cognizant of?
That's a great question. And the answer to that is close. So I have a California firm that comes to mind, and their intake person, and we actually brought it up to the partner, and I think we fixed the problem, would screen the lead, put them on the phone, and he'd have a great talk with them and say, all right, well, let us know if you need us. Take care. Bye-bye. You have to close these leads. Get them off the street. The most progressive thing in this category right now is text retainers. So just like DocuSign does email retainers, where you can email your docs over, there are companies out there, and this is what all the big guys are doing now, that while you are on that initial call, you text them over your retainer agreement and HIPAA form, they click accept, or they sign with their finger, bang, you get them signed up right then and there on that call. Now you can still set an appointment to meet with them 2 days later to get to know them and exchange pleasantries and get some of those wet docs signed, but that's what the best firms are doing. Or while you're on that initial call, have an investigator going out to their house that afternoon. But you don't set an appointment with these for a week out and expect them to still be waiting for you. You have to capitalize on it and close.
Yeah, boy, that's a great, an amazing point. In fact, in about a week and a half or 2 weeks, we're doing another webinar with Denny Newberry, and we're going to be talking about, texting and using, more software to actually close cases quicker. And we're going to be talking about the one-call close. And, I know something that, a friend of mine, Tom Wallen, actually talks about quite a bit, and that attorneys are really scared of. But man, I'm glad you brought that up, because texting and closing on that first call, it is absolutely critical. And for attorneys to actually take that step, they really need to focus on that and, spend time understanding how that can be done and the easiest way to do that. And it's not just for big firms. It's like, it's literally the most cost-effective solution you could put in place, and probably the highest ROI you're going to have on any software you ever implement. So you just really touched on something I think is very important, is getting those people off the street and closing them.
I'm familiar with Denny and the guys over at Captora, and they have one of the best products out there. So that's a must-have if you own a law firm.
I got another great question here. If I want to do this for Fresno, as an example, how many serious leads can I expect a week or month? And I want to know what budget I would need to allocate per month.
For the Fresno market, I would want to do some more research. We do have a firm there, but I do have more availability. So I would want to do some more due diligence. A short answer, just to give him an idea, I would say maybe 1 or 2 SIs a week, serious injury leads, and 1 or 2 auto leads a week, which we haven't even delved into those yet. So a couple of leads a week, not a ton of quantity. So
that is great news. So, what would be a budget you would recommend that an attorney allocate, say, for a market like Fresno?
It's a little bit of a trick question because it depends on what you have to budget. I'd say if you have the resources, 5,000 to 10,000 a week.
Okay.
For some guys, that's way out of their sphere, and for other guys, that's very doable. So,
well, and I think if I remember you mentioning that you can do this on a month-to-month basis. It's not, it's not something you have to commit to for a year, right?
100%. And I have guys that have been working with us 5 and 6 years, and they don't have contracts. So, correct.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, that's a good point. So, if a firm just wanted to put their toe in the water, give this a shot, they don't have to commit to like the standard TV spend. I mean, if you go to a station, they say, look, we need 6 months to 12 months of this covered, and you have to commit to whatever it is, $100,000, $130,000, $140,000 worth of advertising that you probably don't have. And, that to me is scary.
100%. And then you have to produce the commercial, Travis. You have to have an effective call to action. You have to track the campaign for effectiveness. You have to learn the ratings, the viewership, the cost per viewer. There's a lot that goes into it. And like I said, I've spent most of my career doing this. So we use all our expertise, experience, knowledge on your behalf, and you just focus on intake and conversion. And
if, since these leads come in after hours, I mean, it's one thing I know that people struggle with is, the intake process. And like you mentioned earlier, So if someone's in court, I mean, it's critical that they have systems in place. And I just want to make that very, very clear. Because if you're paying this much for leads, people, make sure you have that figured out first. If you're paying anything for leads, actually, make sure you have your intake process figured out. This is such a critical piece of the equation we find all too often, as I'm sure you do, Mark, that that's the one area that people just seem to not be able to get their head around.
Yeah. Travis, step one is pick up the phone.
Right. I have another great question. Another great question here. Do you find cases have more value in dense areas like LA or more rural areas? If I can go anywhere in California, where would be the best market to spend $10,000 a week or a month?
Where I'm seeing the best quality cases right now in California, up San Francisco, Sacramento, Monterey, and Fresno.
Interesting.
So, although Fresno is more central, but up that way. So I have a few theories on that. Number one, I think it's less saturated. Every law firm in California is in Los Angeles on Wilshire Boulevard, right? They all claim they're statewide, but they're all right on the street. I'll be there next week for meetings. I know. It's not hard for me to go from one building to the next. So up north, I feel like there's a lot less saturation. And we're also finding some really good cases. That's where we're seeing our commercial semi-trucks and some of those really high-value cases.
That's great to know. And again, you said the average case value has been right around $80,000 to $100,000, correct?
I'd say that's on the low end with serious injuries. Not necessarily. No, I'd really put that on the low end.
Okay, that's great. I mean, these are great questions that people are giving us. And
Travis, that's more something that I'd put back to the attorneys. You guys know better than I do, right? So what's a broken leg? This lead here, we just got this, and this was a California lead, guys. So this was something that came in, I want to say it was late last week. And this was the attorney's notes. So when we send over the lead, the email lead, they reply to that and tell us if they signed them or not. And we actually use that knowledge to tighten up our media buys to find out where the cases are coming from. So it's a phenomenal team effort. I've been working with these guys for about 3 years. PNC was struck by a semi-truck, fractured her spine, approved for surgery. It went over to Jeff, their intake guy. Jeff signed them up right on the spot. The date of loss was January 3rd. They were T-boned, not at fault. Injuries, they had torn ligaments in the neck and back and also a fractured spine. Again, having surgery, car was totaled, both parties have insurance. That's a phenomenal case right there. That's several $100,000 case.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I think you guys do similar to what my marketing company does. Is we actually make sure we follow up with our clients to see how they're doing with the leads and give them advice on things they can improve on, because it's in your best interest, I assume, for them, for these folks to convert. So it's not as if you're just running these ads and disappearing off the grid. So
well, it is, and it's a team effort. So again, the attorneys, and they don't have to, not all of my clients do it, Travis, but the attorneys will email us back and say, hey, I signed this. It's a great case. Then we track it back to, okay, what station did we air on? Okay, CBS. What program did we air in? Oh, they're News at Noon or Dr. Phil. So we make a note for our media buys so that we can turn up the quality and find out where the best cases are coming from.
Oh man, that is such great. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I can't tell. That's great advice for the attorneys. If you're not doing that currently with your marketing companies, anybody you're working with, is providing that feedback to them, whether it be through television buys or pay-per-click advertising or social media advertising, whatever it may be, anything that you can draw a direct correlation back to a very specific lead source. Please, take the time and give that feedback to your marketing companies that you're working with, because the only way they know how to improve, the only way Mark knows how to improve and continue to generate those type of leads through those sources that are actually producing, if he knows what is actually generating retainers. I mean, that's the only thing we know. I mean, we just do what we do best with the information that we have. So it's, again, very critical point.
Travis, it only benefits themselves in the end.
I have a great question from Gary. Gary says, is there any type of guarantee if my initial 15,000 retainer does not result in any cases?
You know what, we do. Okay. So here's my guarantee to a new client of ours. I guarantee that you will sign a minimum of 50% into cases. Okay. So you won't completely flop, and we will make sure of it. Now, of course, remember the calls are recorded. So if you're cherry picking, waiting for a 7-figure wrongful death case, we probably won't have a long-term relationship. But yes, we will put a backstop in there to make sure that it backs out for you.
Can you give us more detail, or is that just on a case-by-case basis?
No, I will guarantee that they sign 50%. So if you buy 2 serious injury leads, we will guarantee you will sign one of them.
Wow, that's pretty.
And again, you should sign closer to 80%.
And so, Gary, I hope that answers your question. But I think that was a great question, and I don't hear that too often. So I think that's great, Mark, that you guys actually put that type of commitment in. I have another question from Denise. Denise is asking, is Houston, Texas on your map?
Houston, Texas, we are active, but we do have quantity there. So yes, I do have room for someone there.
Yes, Denise, he does have some openings there. And I know if you want more information, we're in the live Q&A now, and Mark's contact information is now on the screen. So I assume that you want them to reach out to you if they have questions, and you'll provide them with some sort of detailed analysis of, the market and what you're capable of doing, I assume.
Yeah, please do. I'll be here to answer questions digitally, or if people want to get on a call and delve further into their market, I'm happy to do so. And my website's there as well. You can visit it, and I look forward to hearing from all of you. Thanks for the time today, Travis.
No, we're not done yet, man. I hope if people have more questions. I didn't mean to jump to that. I forgot to give them your contact information. So, whenever I get a question about somebody asking if a market's open, it's probably a pretty good, indicator that I should probably put your contact information up so they can reach out to you. But I encourage more Q&A. Yeah. So, I just think to me, it's a market people have only kind of thought about, and they don't necessarily have a lot of information on it. It's not that easy to get information on the TV market because these broadcast stations make it more challenging than it should be. And there's a lot of, nonsense in what they offer. So, this product has been really interesting to me because I just think it's unique, and it's a good way for firms who can't afford that initial, bump to actually get into this space and find another, channel for, generating higher quality leads. And I think that's what everybody's looking for.
Travis, I've heard a number of times that firms eventually find us and proceed to tell us that, hey, I spent $20,000 a month on television for the last 6 months. I didn't get a single call. And eventually they find their way to us, and we start getting them leads, the first week. Television is wildly competitive. It's confusing, and it's time consuming for you to even attempt to wrap your arms around it. So I understand.
It's funny you mentioned that too, because I had a marketing client that was doing some TV down in New Orleans, and his rep told him that he needed to be patient for the first 4 to 6 months, and it's likely he wouldn't see any return on his investment for that period of time, which he was spending $30,000 a month. But after that 6 months, he could count on it really kicking in. And I thought, what are you smoking, man? Like, really? Like, you're okay? Like, spending $180,000 up front with the hope that after your 4th to 6th month that you're going to get some return. To me,
I've heard that speech before.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I just literally, I thought, wow, I'm not going to name the client, but I just thought, man, I really would like you to just give me your money because I could do a lot better with it than what the station's going to do for you. But again, people have to learn the hard way, and I don't know too many people that offer what you guys offer. I think it's very unique. So again, that's why we wanted to kind of present it and get it out in front of people today, and give them the opportunity to learn more about it. And and hopefully people have. If you have any more questions, we have some more time. So please, if there's any questions you guys have, Mark's very open with everything, and so feel free to ask. We'll hang out here for a little bit and shoot some more stuff your way as we can. But again, more questions the better. But Mark, do you have anything else you want to share while we're kind of waiting for anybody to pop in here?
Yeah, this is the evolution of television, Travis. So just like Uber has revamped the taxi cab industry, you don't have to overspend on TV anymore. So you don't have to try to figure it out. Spend your money for 6 months and then come to find out you need to go for another 6 months. Every dollar you spend goes towards an actual lead, and that lead is something that you want to do business with. So it's taking the best of what television has to offer, presenting it in front of you, and then your job is to just get them off the street and sign them up. So it's definitely where television's going.
And we actually had a few people ask for the texting services, and I'll send those out to everybody that registered after the event's over, and along with some other resource information that we could provide. So just to give you a heads up that I know people had a couple questions about that. So we will make sure we send out a couple different resources available to you that are, we think are the best to use. But please, obviously do your own research and figure out what's right for you. But again, we'll send that out along with Mark's contact information, the best way to get in touch with him. This is great, man. I really appreciate your time. I know we really enjoyed having you and your partner at the conference. And it's, again, I don't think it's for everybody, but I do think it's for those people who are who have probably maybe maxed out their efforts in their SEO, who have fleshed out their PPC, who feel like they have more room to grow and looking for very specific types of cases. Well, it's here. This is it. I mean, that to me, this is really a no-brainer if you can swing it. And, with that kind of guarantee, it's hard to really understand why people, if they could do it, financially, and they were set up for it internally, it makes a lot of sense.
Travis, I have a client in Chicago who said, the soft tissue cases are how I keep my lights on. And he goes, your leads are how I buy the boat. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So
yeah.
This is how you propel your law firm to that next level.
Yeah, this is great information, and I really appreciate it. And I think we had a couple of people that have just chimed in and said thanks for the great webinar, and they'll be calling you for more information. And so I'll be sharing that information with you after. If I don't get any more questions here in the next 30 seconds, then I'll let Mark kind of wrap it up, and and we'll tie things up here and send you guys the resource information. And again, I strongly encourage you to reach out to Mark, even if you just have questions, even if you don't feel like it may be for you, just reach out to him and get more information, because there's a lot of cool information that he shared with me about the, kind of some of the secrets of the, television industry that I just was not aware of, and really helped me understand why this is such a challenging market to get involved in. So hopefully, if we don't get any more questions, Mark, I'll kind of let you kind of do your thing, and then we'll wrap it up and let you get back to work.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And yeah, I look forward to speaking with some of these attorneys and see what we can do for them, help them grow their practice.
Again, it's the best way to get a hold of you, Mark, is, your office number is at 720-651-9222. Again, and his email is Marks. Is that M-A-R-K-S at legaltvleads.com. And their website is legaltvleads.com. Again, we'll pass along Mark's contact information, and he would love to hear from you. If not, he'll reach out to those folks who have asked him to reach out. And again, we really appreciate everyone's time. And if you have any questions, you can email Mark or myself, and we'll send out the resources that we talked about on the webinar shortly after the webinar. And we'll make the webinar live as a video, or actually a recording live on the website as soon as possible. So again, if you want to rewatch it, if you have more questions or some of your questions, you maybe just missed portions of it, you can pop in, listen to it. And please, again, I encourage you to give Mark a call. It's a really cool opportunity. Mark, we thank you so much for your time. It's been very great spending this time with you, and thanks for the information.
All right. Thanks again, Travis.
All right, everybody. Again, thank you. And we'll see you again in about 2 weeks. And we'll have Denny Newberry from Captora on talking about, the legal intake process and the best way to build a strong intake process. So again, thank you. My name's Travis, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye now.